Today we're doing NBA player props here on PrizePicks for Sunday, April 30th. Before we get started, there's a link in the description below to sign up for PrizePicks, or you can use promo code TUFF to sign up. 100% deposit match. We get the Discord link in the description, as well as the Patreon link where I do post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks for each given sport that I do play. Again, do need to mention I'm not a gambling expert and this is not financial advice. These are simply just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully give you guys some insight and analysis to then make your own player prop decisions here. But let's get right into it. You guys have got two plays here that I do like. Obviously the Curry free square is going to be an over. I'm sure you guys are probably already playing that in a lot of slips. But the two plays here, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. So the first one here is going to be Jimmy Butler, and I like his over 5.5 assists here. Now, we're looking at 5.5 assists here for Jimmy, and we take a look at his last 5 games. He's hit this in one of his last 5. So, usually when you see lines like this on PrizePicks where he hasn't even hit 5 in his last 4 games, but this line is set at 5.5. There's a reason for that, right? There's obviously a reason Vegas and PrizePicks and the books have this line at 5.5, because it's a whole new series, it's a whole new matchup, a whole new game plan for the Miami Heat, and a whole new game plan, whole new defensive scheme that's going to be guarding Jimmy Butler. So we take a look here at this matchup. Knicks are going to be 4.5-point favorites. Julius Randle's questionable. Quentin Grimes looking like he's going to play. Quentin Grimes, very elite defender, most likely going to be on Jimmy Butler in this game. But we take a look at Jimmy this season versus the Knicks. He's had at least 5 assists in every matchup. He's cleared in 2 of his last 2, has 6 assists and 9 assists over his last 2 games, and then 5 assists and 5 assists. So has had at least 5 assists in all 4 games versus the Knicks this season. We take a look at Jimmy Butler game log this season without Tyler Hero. Right, this is going to the regular season, obviously. He's had at least 5 assists in 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 of 11 games this season without Tyler Hero. Has actually had at least 5 assists on all 3 games on the road as well. But if we take a look at Jimmy and we take a look at that series against Milwaukee, they were pretty much letting him shoot, and they were giving him single coverage the entire game, right? They were letting him take any shot he really wanted on the floor, and that is not what I think the Knicks are going to do. I think the Knicks are going to double team Jimmy. They're going to blitz Jimmy. We saw the Knicks do that to Donovan Mitchell, and you can see Donovan Mitchell's assist game log in that series. He had 8 assists through 13 assists and 5, 5, and 5. So Donovan Mitchell had at least 5 assists in every single game versus the Knicks in that playoff series, because they were blitzing him, they were doubling him, and he really struggled offensively. You can see the field goal percentages for Donovan Mitchell, 42, 27, 47 over his last 3 games. Obviously played well in the first 2, but again, 5 assists in every single game. We know Tom Thibodeau knows how to guard Jimmy Butler, obviously coaching him. And I definitely think we're going to see some doubles, especially with a tough defender already, just on single coverage like Quentin Grimes guarding Jimmy Butler. I think he's going to be forced to pass here, and 5.5 just seems a little bit too low. We take a look at the odds here for Jimmy Butler. We can see here it's minus 145, minus 131, minus 143. So just terrific odds here on the over 5.5. And I do think maybe this bumps up. Again, tip-offs like in 3 hours from now, so maybe not. But great odds for us here at 5.5 assists for Jimmy Butler. We take a look at his potential assists versus the Knicks this season. In 4 games, 9.3 potential assists, average 6.3 assists versus the Knicks already this season. And we take a look at his playoffs over his last 5 games. In the playoffs, even when he was seeing that single coverage, really taking any shot he wanted, he still made 41.6 passes and 8.8 potential assists per game here for Jimmy. So I think 5.5 just a little bit too low. Obviously, we're talking about a player that likes to pass and can pass the ball. We take a look at his just game log this season, just in general, with or without Tyler Hero. Dating back to the regular season, he had a nice run of games here with 10, 9, 5, 6, 12, 8, and 6 assists. So, we know Jimmy's capable of being a playmaker, and he's gonna obviously have the ball a ton in his hands here. So I like Jimmy over 5.5 assists. That's the first play. Then the other one is going to be Draymond Green, and I like his over 31.5 fantasy. Now, this was a YouTube play, I believe, on Friday, and it cashed for us. It barely cashed, but it did cash. He is now over this in 3 or 4 of his last 5, but 3 of his last 3 games here. We take a look at Draymond, and in that last game, he only played 26 minutes. He was in foul trouble early. He had like 3 fouls in the first half, only played like 10 minutes in the first half. Still finished with 31.8 fantasy, right? Now, this is at home. This is away now. This game's on the road in Sacramento. I think Steve Kerr realizes that he needs Draymond Green on the floor to have a chance to win this game, right? I think his plus minus he's minus 13, but he had a higher plus minus than, Jordan Poole obviously played horrible, and Draymond Green played like, I think, almost the entire second half until, he obviously pulled the starters. So it's apparent that Steve Kerr knows now that, Draymond Green was coming off the bench. He may still come off the bench, but I think Draymond Green is well positioned to play, 35 plus minutes here in a game 7. We take a look at Draymond's, fantasy points per minute over his last 5 games. He is averaging 1.14 fantasy points per minute here. If he does, again, plays 32, 33 plus minutes here, that should be well over the 31.5 fantasy line that this is currently at. We take a look at fantasy score. Draymond's fantasy score game log against the Kings this season, including the playoffs. I mean, he's hit this in, like I said, 4 of his last 5 games. And then obviously that one game where he got ejected early. And then even in the regular season had some consistent, decent games here as far as fantasy points per minute go. We take a look at Draymond's career game log in fantasy score game log in a game 7 in his playoffs career. He's over this in 4 of 4 games. If we just take a look here at fantasy score game log, close out playoff games. Let's see what Draymond has done. Yeah, see, close out playoff games. Draymond, I mean, this fantasy score line is pretty elite. I'm pretty sure this is like 23 of 25 games in closeout playoff games. Draymond Green has hit the over on this line. And then also, too, over his last 4 games in this series, he is averaging 41.5 fantasy points per 36 minutes. 1.2 fantasy points per minute over these last 4 games more specifically, but 41.5 fantasy points per minute, 41.5 fantasy points per 36. If we see Draymond Green, again, play 35 minutes in this matchup, I could even, again, see him playing 40-plus minutes in this matchup. This should be an easy over for us. I love Draymond Green tonight at 31.5. So these are the 2 plays here for this YouTube video. Obviously, the Curry free square as well is on there. But again, wanted to get this video out before these games started. Games start in about 2.5 hours from the time this video goes live. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about these 2 plays. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button. As always, let's cash.